Hello Linux fans and welcome to Linux Quest. Well, it's time for another poll results video. I think this is community poll number 5, and this one was, what is your favorite Arch-based OS? Now, I messed up admittedly, and a couple of you astute viewers caught me here and said, no, wait a minute, you said, what is your favorite Arch-based OS? And here I go putting pure Arch in the lineup. Nevertheless, there was 17% of you went with pure Arch here. Now the overwhelming winner here was Manjaro, which is what I'm currently running. And then we had the other listed down here, and there were a few surprises, a few distros that are Arch-based that I've never even heard of that you mentioned. So it's great. Now we had 83 comments, so a lot of comments here out of 403 votes. And as we do in these community polls, in the results video, I'm going to read through. If this will pop up here, I'm going to read through, maybe I'm not, all of these comments. So let's go here to oldest first, see if this will work. There we go. So this is going to be oldest first. This has been running a little bit longer than the polls normally run, but here we go. So 1 week ago we had the Linux user, and you went with other. That was your vote. You went with Arch Labs. So thank you for voting there. Eric Adams, you went with Manjaro. You go on to say you've used Manjaro for many years and it's consistently high quality, thoughtful defaults, a version for just about every DE or WM window manager, and an active, helpful community. So well said, Eric. Thanks for your vote. Mr. GFY, you went with other and you went with Black Arch. And I've got to say, it's a distro I've never tried. So thanks for your vote and for listing that out. Austin Huffman, you went with Antergos. Antergos is basically Arch for the average user. Agreed. Easy setup, reliable. Every time you distro hop, you're always back on Antergos. And that was me for a long time, Austin. Thanks for your vote. Green Rules 99, you went with Antergos. It's an easy way to install Arch. It sure is. And you like how they give you so many options in the installer for different desktop environments. And that was the thing that hooked me for sure. Nur, you went with, or Nair, or Nur, excuse me. If I mess your name up, folks, I apologize. You went with other, and then you said never. You've never tried any. I highly recommend you give, Arco Linux or Manjaro. Give it a try. See what you think. AJCD1SC1PLE, you went with pure Arch. You just say run Arch. It's only a few lines to install now, kinda. Laughing out loud. Eric Dubois has some great tutorials, and he really, really does. Thanks for your vote. Emilio, you went with Manjaro. By far, it's the most competitive one and has a wonderful community. And everybody on this list really, with the exception of one or two of you, really appreciate the Manjaro community. Red Robo's Workshop. I was looking at this, I'm like, it's not Robo, it's Robo. Just hopefully I'm not messing that up, Rob. You went with Manjaro. And so Manjaro, for you, you get some degree of package curation, which makes breakages less likely. And that's an excellent point, Rob. Plus, they make a good effort with the themes. Agreed 100%. I mean, I think they do the best job with XFCE as anyone at making it look more modern. Rob, appreciate the vote. Mark Gates, you went with pure Arch. Great for building a streamlined server, especially on the Pi. And I could see where that would work well on the Pi. Those Pi devices have become very popular as of late. Jimmy Brown, you went with Manjaro. Never had an issue with Manjaro, so thanks for the vote there. Tony Verizon, you went with Antergos. It's fast and easy to use on older hardware, plus you love the look of the XFCE desktop combined with Deepin icon theme. And I think maybe I tried that once, but I bet that is a nice combo, Tony. Thanks for the vote. Hadzai, you went with none. I was so disappointed when I saw. No, I'm kidding. So you go on to say rolling distros are bad. Why? Updating lots of irrelevant to user package shouldn't be a necessity, and it's not supported by third parties. And of course, I was pulling your leg, Hades, when I went on to say you've never tried this distro called None. And there's also another vote for a distro called Never, of course. Wink, wink. Frank392, you went with Antergos. It works better than Manjaro. Flexibility to choose the desktop you wish at the moment of installation. And I think that hooks a lot of people. I was certainly enamored with it the first time I set up Antergos. Travis, you went with Arco Linux. Arco Linux D with the deepened desktop. So thanks for your vote. Rejoy, you went with Arco Linux. Although I have yet to try Arco Linux, you go on to say that Arco Linux-based distros, you find Arco Linux very compelling. So thanks for your vote. Francisco, you went with Pure Arch. And you say here that you run Arch, installed the Arch way, and some folks say the hard way, plus KDE Plasma and Manjaro KDE on different laptops. They are both rock solid and excellent. And you go on to say that your preference is for Pure Arch because it allows you to set things up exactly the way you want. And, system deboot instead of grub, things like that. And after Pure Arch, your first choice is Manjaro. Let's see here. All right, got you covered. So, Francisco, good points, and thanks for your vote. George James, you went with Pure Arch because you get to run Arch just how the developers intended it to be run. You also have control as to what software is installed. And I absolutely can see the lure to that. If you want to set up a really streamlined, slim system, man, that'd be the way to do it. Hey, Walt, you voted here for Manjaro. Thanks so much for your vote. You said that you've been using Manjaro XFCE for over 3 months now. It just works. And you hear that a lot with Manjaro, that it just works, Walt. You're going to say you've used Manjaro KDE in the past also, and you had used it for over a year before. And that's saying something. If you're a distro hopper like myself, using something for 3 months is a long time. So when you start to hear people talk about using Manjaro for a year, 2 years, 3 years, to me that's really something. 8-Bit Keck, you went with Other, and you went with Parabola. That's one I've never tried, a fully free Arch. So thanks for your vote. Joe Johnson, you went with Arco Linux, and you go on to talk about your horrible experience with Manjaro and the inhumane treatment from the developers. And I'm sorry that that's been your experience there. But you go on to say that you were selecting Arco Linux, running it with XFCE because at least the developer of Arco Linux is the complete opposite of Manjaro's developers, as he seems to be a nice guy that treats the users of Arco Linux correctly. And I think Eric does an exceptional job there support-wise. I think he's one of the hardest working guys in the Linux community. And, I mean, the guy's a machine. Eric Dubois is a machine. Thanks for your vote, Joe. Rose, you went with Arco Linux. Usually you just use MX, but since the Big Daddy Challenge, you decided to take the plunge and play with Arco Linux 691 for a week. And you go on to say that so far it's been a pretty good Linux distro. Eric and the other Linux YouTubers has so many videos to help you out, even for an average user like yourself. And that's so true, Rose. There's so much help out there now. You go back to the late 90s, and it's kind of like you were on your own. It could take a while to get stuff set up. Thanks for your vote, Rose. Dave, over at Linux and Other Stuff, man, you went with none. Plain and simple, none. I got to try that distro, none, Dave. All right, man, I'm kidding. All right, TS Texture, you went with Arco Linux. Eric Dubois, very helpful scripts. And the man's got some scripts for sure, and he shares all that information. Eric, TS, it's awesome what he shares. Electrics Redsworth, you went with Pure Arch. Arch Linux is awesome. The customizability is amazing, and you love to use window managers. BSPWM is what you're on now, and you prefer Arch Linux because you enjoy building the setup as minimal as you need. And that's what we were talking about. Electrics earlier was, if you want to slim down OS, man, just build it up, or build it down, should I say. Bobby Paycheck, you went with Manjaro. It just works. It's up to date, but super stable, and has great NVIDIA driver support. On top of all that, it has a friendly community of users and an enormous amount of software available. All very true, and I think the NVIDIA driver support there for many of you, Bobby Paycheck, is a big reason why a lot of people appreciate using Manjaro. Ritual 301, you went with Pure Arch, a system that you can curate yourself from the ground up. All very true. Thanks for your vote. Rex Evan, you went with Manjaro. If I had to use an Arch-based distro, my best bet will be Manjaro. Thanks for your vote. Comrade Curio. Curio. Arco Linux, you go on to say that Arco saves you tedious steps for downloading the base Arch system, is relatively unbloated, and has a working installer like Interagos. JB, you went with Arco Linux, and you like how you are given the opportunity to learn Arch step by step. Love it, and can't argue with that. JB, thanks for your vote. Earthbound, you went with Pure Arch. Your vote goes to good old-fashioned Arch. Gives a good knowledge of how things are working, making it easier to fix problems if they arise. Very good. Thanks for your vote. Orcaflata, you went with Other, and here's one I've never tried. Namib. Namib. Oh, okay. I've never tried it, never even pronounced it, as you can tell. But thanks for your vote, and that'll be one to check out. Fratum, you went with Pure Arch. Runs the best without the bloat. And I think many people will agree with that. Zebedee Boss, or Zeb, you went with Arco Linux because of all the extra that Eric Dubois brings to Arco. Eric, man, your head's probably swelling if you're seeing this now. Zeb, thanks for your vote. Serge, you went with Other. You went with Arch Mid, and that was new to me. But once you started talking about what you said here, when you tried Arch, you followed the recommendations of Midfinger, God rest his soul. But I know that he helps so many of you out there on the Arch side of things when you involved with Linux. And I think his channel is still up. Maybe his son is running it. But let's read what you had to say here, Serge. You said that since you discovered Slackware and Gentoo, you have a huge preference for those two distributions. Arch has the problem of conflicting packages, which Slackware doesn't have, and Arch misses the notion of slot, the ability to have several versions of the same package installed, which Gentoo has natively. If there is a major upgrade of Perl, Gentoo has much better tools to handle this scenario. Gentoo has a steep learning curve, but once you know how to maintain your system, you get less issues. Since the GitHub incident, which was fixed in less than 2 hours, Gentoo has hardened the update process, and Slackware exists with the same tools for 25 years. Have a bit of that, Rob. All right, you got it. Well, this is good info, Serge. Thanks for kind of laying all of this out. And this is the part where I really appreciate you guys aren't just voting, but you're listing here some information that I think will be helpful to others, but you're making your case too. So, all right, thanks for the vote. TDHFC, Pure Arch. Want the latest of all packages? Fully customized distribution? Agree to spend some time on setup and to solve problems if they arise? Use Pure Arch. You're going to say want easy to set up and relatively new proof and relatively stable system? Agree to have some outdated and some very outdated packages? Use Ubuntu or its derivative of your choice. Arch derivatives fall somewhere in between these two options. Some beginner-friendly features, but limited customizability packages are a bit less fresh. And I think you've got some good points there. Thanks for the vote. Andrew Y., you went with Parabola OpenRC Edition. Sorry for the critique, but adding Pure Arch makes this poll less accurate since the title says Arch-based. Very true. You got me. And that's all I can say is you're right. Darren Natal, you went with Other. You went with SwagArch. I think there were 2 votes for SwagArch. Easily the most reliable out of the Arch distros. So Darren, thanks so much for that. Jose, you went with Manjaro. I'm using it for 2 years. Listen to that, folks. 2 years he's been using it, and it has never given him any problems. Leipero, Lipero, Pure Arch. Man, I have to comment in order to vote, LOL. I think you can just vote. I don't know that you have to comment. I think you can just place your vote. Because otherwise, you'd have 403 comments instead of just 403, or instead of just 80 some odd comments. Crowbar, you went with Arch Labs. Thanks for your vote. Necuril, Mr. Islam, I'll go with. You went with Antergos. It gives the best GNOME experience, so thank you for your vote. Tux1313, you went with Arco Linux. Eric has done a great job to teach you how to set up the perfect system, not just taking what comes out of the box. And again, kudos to Eric. Nagus79, Nagius79, your vote was Manjaro. You've used it for years. Here's another one. Used it for years. Seems quite stable and easier to use than the rest. So thanks for your vote. Peter Jansen, you went with Pure Arch, Peter. And you go on to say here, it is what makes the other Arch-based distros possible. And that's true, and that's why maybe I shouldn't have put it in here, but you're right. Without Arch, we wouldn't have those other distros. I didn't try out Arco Linux yet. You go on to say that you're tempted to try it out given that it also has i3WM integrated. It seems like a noob-friendly way to get acquainted with this window manager, given that you can easily switch to XFCE on the same system. And I think you're spot on there, Peter, and thanks for your vote. Richard Addison, you went with Arco Linux because the support is great and because of Eric. Man, wherever Eric is, if he's hearing this, his head's so big he won't be able to fit through the door. Andrew, you went with Manjaro. You started using Linux on all your systems about 2 or 3 years ago, and you started with the Ubuntu flavors. Oh, yes, Andrew, I want to read all of this out because you've got some excellent points here. I think that people new or people coming into the community will like to read all this. So I'm going to go through this. I may skip around, but good points here. So you go on to say that Ubuntu wouldn't give the right Linux kernel on its LTS to support your first generation Ryzen CPU. And this was eventually resolved, but you think it's been like it was a few months after launch. Upgrading to newer versions of Ubuntu had a 50-50 chance of breaking your system. And I'm going to skip on down here. Printer support was a little shoddy, and getting the proprietary drivers needed was a nightmare. And this is on an Ubuntu-based distro. And then let's move on down here because things got better for you. You eventually landed on Manjaro after seeing it top the DistroWatch charts. And you go on to say that you were hesitant to say that you had previous problems with the likes of Antergos not running on some of your machines, and Base Arch just being, it took a lot of time, to time sync for you. So you go on to say here that you went with the XFCE ISO, straight up installed it on your systems, and you were in heaven. 4 of the problems you outlined above were solved already. The only problem you had left was that you felt like XFCE was a little dated, even with Manjaro's custom theming. And then you go on here, you can't remember if it was me or another Linux YouTuber that said it took him 3 tries for KDE to finally grow on him. I don't think that was me. It must have been another Linux YouTuber. I've kind of always liked KDE. But this intrigued you as you had tried KDE twice before, once on OpenSUSE or SUSE, and again on KDE Neon, which is a nice distro, and Kubuntu. And this is the part I loved. You said, back then, I hated it. Felt like someone had just puked transparent windows and options all over it, and that was all a bit overwhelming. Then you tried KDE with Manjaro, and you felt it was as good as Linux is ever going to get. Cutting edge, stable, access to all benefits of Arch like the AUR, user-friendly, beautiful, and almost entirely bug-free. So, man, I've got to get Manjaro KDE going, being a big fan of KDE for sure. So thanks very much for listing all that. I love this. This is helpful to people, and you're certainly making your case here, Andrew, so thanks for your vote. Stefan, you went with running Swag Arch, so I think you were vote number 2, Stefan, for Swag Arch. Thanks for your vote. Jason Crane Adkins, you went with Arco Linux. You were searching for an easy-to-use Arch distro and stumbled over Eric Dubois' YouTube channel. And another one for Eric. And you go on to say that you were impressed by the way he contributes to the community. Since then, you've always used distributions he was involved in. So that's very cool. Arch Labs, Arch Merge, and Arco Linux. And I first discovered it really, I knew about Arch Labs, but Eric kind of came on the scene strong with Arch Merge, and then there was the name change to Arco Linux. So it's cool that you listed that up. Frankie Wait, you went with Manjaro. Good choice if you want to record music and have Arch in the same place. A little bit of tweaking for the RT kernel, and there you go. So you go on to talk about OpenBox, i3, and Awesome. if okay, this was the part. Yeah, I laughed at this, Frankie. I love this. So I'm going to use this, Frankie. So you said if your PC has calculator specs. That's just a great way to say if your system's that old, man. That was hilarious. Arch Labs is very cool also, and they have a superb community. All right, so let's go on here. That was good. Now, I can't. All right, so once we get back up to you, Frankie, we're done with this list. So now we're at the bottom, going back up. So Kenneth Batchelor, you went with Manjaro, trouble-free and stable. Thanks, Kenneth, for the vote. Gary P., you went with Antergos. You recommended on, oh, okay, you said that I recommended it on a video. So you installed the XFCE version, and it's great. And I got to say, Antergos it's one of my favorites. It was my fallback for sure. Anthony, you went with Manjaro. You have used Pure Arch. You like Manjaro for your daily driver because updates are withheld for testing before they are pushed to the user. And you know what? A lot of people use it for that because, like you say here, less chance of stuff breaking. Pure Arch was a great learning experience, though. Yeah, a lot of people like the fact that Manjaro holds those back, and some people don't. Some people are the opposite. But I think it's one of the reasons people say it just works for them. Chip, you went with Manjaro. Manjaro KDE all the way. So another one, again, got to get that going. Rex the Linux guy, you went with Manjaro. Easy to install and just works out of the box. Albert, you went with Manjaro. Very stable. We've been using this in your computer music lab at the Gutenberg University. Wow, for several years. That's so cool. And you're very happy with it. Supports all the major desktop environments, and that's true, and the AUR. PMAC nowadays also available in plain Arch, but came from Manjaro originally. So you go on to say it's the best graphical package installer for Arch-based systems in your humble opinion. And the community around Manjaro is great as well. So Albert, thank you so much for your vote, and that's pretty cool to know. Cairo, you went with Manjaro. I already typed this, but I was on the phone with my brother and it inadvertently nudged my selection to other instead of Manjaro. I won't go into all I'd written previously. Suffice it to say, I have been very pleased using Manjaro since the summer of 2016. Man, that's 2 years. I don't know how you do that, but that's cool that you do. And take care, LQ. Thanks so much, Cairo, for the vote. And man, that's a good track record. 2 years. Greg Schubert, you went with Manjaro. You've been running Manjaro since 8.0, something on at least one machine, main machine almost always, and you use XFCE with it. You go on to say that you would run Arch only if it weren't for the little things Manjaro adds to Arch that just make it so much quicker and easier to fix things. Like, and this is a big one here, I think, like being able to have multiple kernels on the machine. You're also completely sold on the rolling release model. To me, you go on to say here, to me, a number of things are a no-brainer. With that said, I also usually have a machine running Pure Arch, also XFCE. I just can't wrap my head around why anyone would go for a Ubuntu-based system when there is Arch. To each his own. That is the beauty of Arch. Greg, thanks for your vote and for the comment here. Can't argue with a lot of what you're saying here. I think you're right on track with much of what you said, especially the kernels. That's nice to have a system in place where from the GUI you can just go in and see what you're doing with the kernels. Very nice. TPASI 2020 UG, you went with Manjaro. Manjaro, all the latest applications I need, and it's also a rolling release. And you like the Mate version, easy to customize. Damas, you went with Manjaro. Been using Manjaro for almost 2 years now, and you love it. 2 years. You just don't hear that about a lot of distros. Well, you do with Ubuntu, I would say, and probably Linux Mint users, but that's testimony. 2 years. Bill Fawcett, you went with Other, and you went with PackBang, and I'm just not familiar with that. And you took the time to share this with us and tell us about it. You go on to say that it was a fabulous, lightweight distro, which pressed all your buttons. Then the dev, this is good, then the devs went lazy and shafted 32-bit users like you. I just want to speak to that too. You see that with a lot of distros now. They're just dropping the 32-bit versions and going to 64. And, you know, there's still people out there with older systems, older hardware that they're using. And also, I'll just put this here that you say that Midfinger's respin is a close second. So kudos there to that spin from Midfinger. Gary Moore, you went with Manjaro, ease of installation, stability, new sort of Manjaro architect installer. David, you went with Antergos because I've installed from scratch enough to know what needs to be modified after the installer runs. And then you note here that the Arch defaults are not set up for most modern multi-core CPU systems. This is good info here, David. Thank you for sharing. With the exception of not using Network D by default, it is what I would set up on your own, or on my own, you say. Switching that one thing and editing some of the default files is par for the course with any other OS, Linux, BSD, Mac OS if you install it, or Windows 10. Why not Manjaro, you may ask? Well, it takes too much to clean up, is basically your answer there. Well, you know, yeah, if you're going to go in and change that, then I guess it would be that you've got to clean that stuff up. I prefer to add functionality rather than to remove it. All right, David, thanks very much. And again, this is one of those cool where you're explaining why you voted the way you voted. Rob Moore. Rob, you went with Manjaro, ticked all of your boxes and then some. Rock solid stable, even on new tech such as your Ryzen. And I too have a Ryzen, and things are running well. And you go on to say that you love being in control of your OS, and sure there are things I don't need or use, but that's easily rectified in Pac-Man, and it sure is. Acid Monkey, you went with Antergos. Have not used Arch for a while, but Antergos KDE was quite good when I tried it. Thanks for your vote, Acid Monkey. Gordon Foster, you went with Manjaro. To be honest, that's what we want here, Gordon, is honesty. It's the only one you've ever used. Man, that's okay. If it works for you, you like it, you don't ever have to switch. But thanks, Gordon, for the vote. And Zaria Saad. I hope, my apologies, Zaria Saad. Arco Linux was your vote, somehow better than Antergos, and you hate the Cinchi installer. Now, I would argue with you, I like the Cinchi installer, but you're going to say here in North Africa, we have only 2 megabit internet speed. Because of that, you never get Antergos to install. That's an excellent point. If you've got a slow internet connection, Antergos can take forever. Even with a fast internet connection, sometimes Antergos takes forever to install. Andres, you went with Antergos. You're currently using Antergos, but you've never tried Manjaro, and it seems now is the best time to try it out. For sure, man. Give it a go. Give it a go. So I think you'll like it. Thanks for the vote. Bad Wolf Plays, you went with my box. I've never heard of that. A new one to me. Even though it's gotten left behind by the dev. Okay, that's why I haven't heard about it. It updates fine and dandy. Thank you, Bad Wolf. Heather, how are you, Heather? You are on Arco Linux, and you go on to talk about Eric, how great he is, and how he puts lots more customizing in than other Arch. And there's 2 different distros. And then you go on to say here, you can learn on one and get help with problems anytime, and it's stable. So thank you, Heather, for your vote. And you're right, Eric is great. And I think so many people, as you see here, Heather, as we go through the list, so many people use Arco Linux because of the amount of work that Eric puts into it. So you're not going to get that from a Windows or Mac community, in my opinion. Melvin Morris, you went with Manjaro. It just works. Bob Wright, you went with pure Arch. If I build it, I have better control. I build it the way I want it, not how somebody else thinks it should be. I also don't like 2-week delays as with Manjaro, and that is an argument to be had with Manjaro. Arch is solid if you update frequently. And I can't argue with what you're saying here, especially on the control side. You know, if you just want a nice slimmed down system and you're building it, then you make it what you want. Bob, thanks for your vote. MCSE port. You went with Manjaro. It works out of the box. Easy for NVIDIA cards. Lots of DE and configuration to your heart's desire. Willem Valentine, you went with Manjaro. Has an excellent community and good vision. Thanks for your vote there. Joe, you went with Manjaro. My main Linux distro since April of 2013. Version 0.8.5, man, that's a testimony to Manjaro, Joe. The Community Budgie Spin is your favorite edition, but the XFCE edition and the Mate Community Edition are also options that you check out from time to time. And that's a good point too, Joe. There's a community edition for just about every DE out there within Manjaro. Michael Pate, your vote was Manjaro because it installed and works well. Dan, your vote was Manjaro. Mini DE, stable, fast, and a great community. And I think that sums it up for a lot of Manjaro users, Dan. So thank you for your vote. Toran Shaw, thank you for your vote here for Arco Linux. So it's Arch-based distro that you're most familiar with, and you say that you have tried it on one of your spare machines for a good while. You're planning to install Manjaro KDE, which I'm right there with you, man. I'm going to be installing that, however, on your main machine. So you say that your answer may change if you ask this question at the end of next month. And I think that's, Taran, for many of us, from month to month, we're super excited about whatever hot distro we're on that month. If you're a distro hopper, that's your world. But very well said, and thanks for the vote. Open source anarchist, you went with Antergos. You love Arch Linux, and Antergos makes it easy to install and beautiful out of the box. Now, this is something you went on to say here. After many experiences with various DEs, you've learned to love GNOME and Deepin. Now, with Antergos, I did a video. Actually, it was the most popular video on Linux Quest, which was Antergos with the GNOME or GNOME desktop, and I gotta say those two combined was a pretty good combo. But that was back earlier when GNOME or GNOME hadn't changed so many things, stripped out so many things. So but thanks for your vote. Let's see here, make sure I don't miss anything. You go on to say here that Eric Dubois is a great contributor to the Linux community. Here he really is, but you're not sure about the idea of self-managed pre-made configuration scripts. Thank you for your comment and vote. Broken. I apologize again here for messing up your name. Manjaro, it's your #1, followed closely by Arco Linux. David Spicer, you went Pure Arch. You get ideas from Manjaro, but you run only Pure Arch. Thank you, David, for the vote. Jano, you went with Arco Linux. I think Arco Linux is a beautiful distro. It is also fast, highly configurable, and stable. Besides that, it's fun and easy to learn Arch from Eric's website. Brian Troxel, you went with Antergos. The more I play with it, the more I discover. And presently running Antergos with XFCE and LXDE on it. And waiting on Manjaro 18 to be released, and I know many of you out there watching this are certainly waiting on that. You love the looks of OpenBox look and feel. Once it is out, we'll try that. OpenBox is truly your favorite. Thanks, Brian, for your vote and comment. Frankie Waite, you went with Manjaro. So you go on to say here, good choice if you want to record music and have Arch in the same place. A little bit of tweaking for the RT kernel, and there you go with i3. Or awesome. All right, are we back up top here? Maybe we are. It's possible, even if PC, yes, has a calculator specs. So Frankie, and that covers it. If I missed anyone, I apologize. But folks, I just got to say thank you with some excellent comments, making points that back up why you voted the way you voted, and you're sharing excellent information here. So I'm just going to keep doing these, and we'll say keep your eyes peeled. We had 403 votes in a week with lots of comments, over 80 comments, and this is just fun. Love the information you're sharing, and we'll be doing more of the community polls in the future, so stay tuned for those. Now I want to pop over to something real quick just to remind you there's going to be about 3 hours left, so hopefully you see this video quick. Actually, let's open that up in a new tab. Pop over to the Linux Quest t-shirt giveaway, and from there you'll see a link. Oh, it's ended. Wow, the giveaway has ended. So we've got to go in. Okay, bad on me. I thought we still had like an hour or two left. All right, scratch that. So it's ended. We've got 10 winners to go in and pick. So soon we'll be doing a video announcing the winners of the new Linux Quest t-shirts. All right, well, let's wrap it up for now. Again, thanks for everyone who voted and commented, and we will check you later.